while you're out in the woods or the canyon, and there's not a lot of big cameras or bright lights around or big studio audience. And, I think people feel much more comfortable.
Yeah, because you're just doing it with a selfie stick and do you have a drone now too?
I have a drone, selfie stick, and then I edit it at home.
Okay.
And then I cast it. I call the publicists and get somebody lined up.
Is it generally people you know, or is it people like, it might be cool to hang out with them for a little while?
It used to be people I know. I would get all my friends on there.
Yeah.
Then my celebrity friends. And then I ran out of celebrity friends. So I had to start sending emails to publicists to request their guests.
Like you're actually booking an actual talk show.
Yeah. But also, I throw a wide net. It's not like I'm nitpicking or handpicking each one. I figure, somebody will come. I'll ask anybody. I'll ask Prince, Harry or, Prince Harry or, I'll ask Charlize Theron,
Right.
And I might get one person out of those 100 people that I think I'll never get.
Yeah. Because these are, fairly candid conversations. And like you said, you did know some of the people before. Who are some of the people that just you laugh and laugh and laugh when you're just talking to them and hanging out with them? It might not be somebody that I don't realize is that funny from watching them on camera, or maybe it is somebody, but who's somebody that just really tickles you?
Well, Conan O'Brien, we always have a great hike or podcast together because we know each other so well. Let's see, who else? Nick Swartzen makes me laugh a lot.
Yep.
He puts it out there. And also, let's see,
And you don't want to insult anybody, just whoever comes.
Right. I'm just trying to think of who else was. Chelsea Handler was funny. Molly Shannon. I mean, there's so many. It's hard to kind of pick them out right now. But it was just. The reason I picked them is because they are funny or they're entertaining. Yeah. So most of them are pretty funny. But there's some people that are funny normally in life, but then on the hike, they're just kind of being not serious, but they're having just a regular conversation.
Well, I'm sure you get all the time too from people who don't know you. Hey, funny man, be funny. But if you're not necessarily working, you may not be feeling funny at that moment.
Well, that's a good point. And also, I'm not knowing these people and they're not knowing me, and they're really taking a risk being out in the woods or canyons with me alone. Because I don't have anybody else, doing the B-roll or anything.
Right. Yeah. I like your paintings, by the way.
Thank you. Caricatures.
They're really neat. They have their caricatures and they have their it's a very distinct style. Is that something you came to as a hobby later or something you always did?
I've always, doodled and sketched. I would be on SNL and we'd do the table read, and sometimes there wasn't a sketch I was in. So I was just in the margins of my script. I would sketch who's ever across from me, Farley or Jan Hooks, whomever. And so even in school, I would, draw and sketch. I never really painted, but right before the pandemic, I saw some people's, artwork on Instagram. I thought, wow, this is really good at Caricatures. And so I started about a year before the pandemic and then just carried through during the pandemic, and I had enough for a book. And the book is out. It's called I Exaggerate, My Brushes with Fame. And then I have an anecdote next to each painting to tell you my experience with that person, whether it's Dana Carvey or Steve Martin. And people seem to like it. In fact, Steve said, this is almost like a memoir.
Yeah.
I said, you know what, it is kind of.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good gift. I imagine you give the paintings to the subject quite a bit.
I give the book to them, and the paintings if they want it. But originally, nobody saw their paintings, so I thought, thank God. And then I had to get them in the book, so I had to get approval from them.
Because it's their likeness.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And also as a courtesy, I asked them. People seem to like them.
Steve Martin, the first time I ever saw you, and probably most people ever saw you, was in Roxanne.
Right.
Did you know him beforehand, or did you meet him just then and then became more friendly because of SNL?
I met him for the first time, I think it was then.
Okay.
And then I was so excited because I was a huge Steve Martin fan. Yeah. So we go up to British Columbia and we shoot this Roxanne movie.
And he beats the crap out of you.
Yeah, we have a little duel in the beginning. He's got the tennis racket, and me and Rich Scheidner have these ski poles, and we're fighting him. And I think we waited like 3 weeks to do that scene because the weather wasn't right, or they'd be behind on something else, and we just enjoyed our time there.
That's great. So you're just getting paid to hang out.
Yeah. So I think Steve Martin knew that I was selected to be on Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
So I think he kind of wanted to capitalize on that.
Yeah.
And then I got to know him well, and to this day, we're friends, and we'll get together sometimes and write, and we play the banjo together sometimes. It's been a while, but we would do that, and of course, I worked with him a lot on SNL.
I literally bumped into him on the street a couple of years ago, and we don't know each other. We've never met, but we bumped shoulders, and he said, "Excuse me," and it's a great regret that I didn't say "excuse me" back to him.
He probably wouldn't have been that thrilled.
I'm
with
sure
that.
he wouldn't have been. At the time you left SNL, you've been on 9 seasons,
Yeah,
which was a record at the time.
yeah.
And since then, I don't know, 9, 10, 11 people have beaten you, have beaten that record. Do you think, is the grind less now, or why are people staying longer, the people that do?
Oh, you mean now currently? Is
Yeah.
it less? I don't know. Well, I think it might be less because there's so many cast members. So once your sketch is not selected, it's not like you're rewriting it and selecting the wardrobe and the set design. So I'm not sure what it would be like now, but it was a grind back when I was on it. But also it was enjoyable. It was a real challenge to get your sketch written and get it all the way to produced and done.
Yeah, and the trick everybody says, is to write for yourself as much as you can, and then you become a producer, right? You must have learned.
You produce your sketch, yeah.
Right, so you must have learned a lot about the departments on that show are just, they're the best of the best. The carpenters, the artists, the sets.
Set
costuming.
designers, everything, yeah. Yep, and you say what you want and they'll get it to you.
Yeah.
In a quick amount of time.
It's magic. When you were a Weekend Update anchor, did you watch the news differently? Were you just constantly watching the news, trying to digest it for jokes, or were you already a news fan?
The challenging thing about Weekend Update was you couldn't start writing jokes until Friday night.
Right.
After all the other shows, Letterman, Leto.
Oh, you're right. You didn't want to accidentally.
But it's all they took all the jokes that you could do.
Right.
So Saturday morning it was kind of like a real hustle thing. I mean, you'd write a little bit during the week just to have things that were generic.
Yeah.
But then Saturday morning, Lauren put out this buffet, a catered breakfast up on the writers' wing at 17th floor, 30 Rock, to try to entice writers to come because people didn't really want to write for Weekend Update because it wasn't glorifying.
Sure.
Nobody on Monday goes, "Oh man, did you hear that joke about so and so?" So Lauren would put a buffet up, hot buffet, 17th floor, big table, the table that we use for the read-through, and it would be covered with newspapers, every newspaper, and then all these AP photos because there wasn't Google back then, or
Right.
computers or cell phones, back in the 1900s.
I
So, yeah. And so some people would come up, some of the new writers would come up, but they weren't that good. And Al Franken would be there because he was a political pundit and he loved writing jokes like that. And Norm Macdonald would come up, but Norm only came up to read the paper and have breakfast.
That sounds like what I've heard of Norm Macdonald.
And then I would also pay people on the writers on the West Coast in LA I give them $50 a joke out of my own pocket. So, yeah.
And that must have been a thrill, like for the people that got jokes on. And turned the show on at night and
Big thrill.
and they made it.
Yeah.
You still in Pacific Palisades?
No, we moved about 2 years ago.
Okay. I was going to ask about the fires and
Yeah.
if any affect people you know. You were there for a while, right? A little while?
I was there for 12 years. I was the honorary mayor for 2 years. And we got out of there in time for those reasons, for the fires. We would see fires from our home up in the Highlands and the Palisades and rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we fortunately we moved out of there. And then I knew a lot of friends that had homes there. I mean, really devastating and sad for them. And it's going to be a while for them to regroup and decide what they want to do or go back there.
The show really does make it look appealing, those hikes. Some of the vistas are just really, it's beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous. I mean, I've hiked everywhere, mostly in the LA canyons, but I've hiked in Ireland and along the coast of Ireland with Paul Reiser. He happened to be there doing a film. I bring my stuff with me in a lot of places because if I run into somebody. I hiked in Nashville with Sheryl Crow and Nate Bargatze. Beautiful there. Smoky Mountains. Just looking for new trails all the time.
You can watch Kevin Nealon taking walks and having talks with people on Hiking with Kevin, streaming now on Fox News.
It's called Hiking with Kevin, but it really is walking at this age.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah.